Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I want to do a quick video today on chronic guilt and shame and some tips for it and important reminders for it. Before I go on, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment on this, let us know what you think. And if you're interested in our coaching sessions and our coaching services, you can email phil@ocdrecovery.com, or you can also click the link in the description below that takes you directly to the WhatsApp chat where you can speak with us and know more about our services. There's also going to be the WhatsApp number, and the email will also be at the end of this video. So have a look at that, and or at the beginning of this video. I'm not sure yet, but have a look at that and let us know if you want to get in touch with us, and we can help you out with understanding what your next steps can be. So just a few like brief pointers that I want to highlight over here when talking about chronic guilt and shame, because these are some of the things that like outright are important to understand as you are beginning to work on your perspectives around it and think differently about it in a more rational manner. So the first thing is that this is something that's going to take a very long time. Your perspective about yourself and how you conceptualize human behavior and what you think about life at large is these are things that are an ongoing process, and these are things that take a lot of time. I mean, think about it. Um, there have been tons and volumes of books written on what is the purpose of life, what why do humans behave the way they do, how do humans think, how do humans how do humans think about their mistakes. Like these are things that, and like just understanding human behavior, these are things that are, I mean, that have been written about endlessly since the beginning of time. Actually, not the beginning of time, since people started to learn how to read and write, basically. Um, and it's still an ongoing thing, right? There's still being books being written about it, because obviously these conceptualizations uh, change, and they change and they evolve over time with each era of the world as well, because the problems of the world and the way society functions like changes across like different decades and whatnot. So these are things that are going to take quite a long time, which is not to say that you're going to experience chronic guilt and shame for the rest of your life and you have to keep thinking about it like till the day you die. But what I'm trying to say is that it requires also like a concerted active effort to really try to rethink your philosophy around what like it is to be a human being who can make mistakes, and a human being who is fallible and can make errors, who is not can make errors. You are bound to make errors because you are a human being. That is like a built-in default into your life, right? Some of those mistakes will be small, some of them will be bad. So it's going to take a lot of time, reflection, deep thinking, and leaving your thoughts there is just not going to cut it. So, if you're, for example, someone who's starting your journey today, it can easily take up to 2 to 3 years, to be very honest. And I know that's very hard to hear, but it can easily take 2 to 3 years for you to feel like comfortable in your own skin and like understanding and accepting chronic guilt and shame, and how that like factors into your life, right? Um, so there's that. The second thing is the ultimate debate between a good and a bad person, because this is way more complex than just being a good and bad person. Why do you have to be one thing or the other? It's not like an either or situation. You can be good and bad at the same time, which is basically what all human beings are. They are good and bad at the same time. You can't be a completely good person or a completely bad person based on one or two things. You're a complex web of all these good and bad and neutral traits and personality traits and actions, right? So in the moment, if your fix is trying to have certainty that you are a good person and not a bad person, or trying to convince yourself of that, or trying to ask other people whether they think you're a good person or not, or trying to get some reassurance on whether they think what you did was good or bad, or okay or not okay, then that's going to keep you in that trap. Again, you have to take more of a long term approach over here, because it's way more complex than just being a good or bad person. It's that kind of just like, because what you're doing then is essentially choosing one thing over the other, but that's cutting out one part of reality. Even if you were like even if you were able to convince yourself that, oh, I'm a good person, that's still not taking into account like what realistically what your behaviors might be, or some other unhelpful behaviors that you might be doing or have done in the past. So, or even the other way around, like just saying, oh, I think I'm just a terrible person. You're not taking into account like other realities of yourself, right? So that debate has to be given up, and it again, it's way more complex than that. And like for this, like the myths of self-esteem and how to stubbornly refuse to make yourself miserable are basically like I would say essential reads to understand what unconditional self-acceptance means in the context of being a good or bad person. So your understanding of that is going to like start getting built with those books. So yeah, get your hands on them as soon as you can. And the third thing is that the idea of unconditional acceptance is also not to completely eradicate any guilt, shame, or regret that you have about your past or your actions or yourself, because then you're also having a bit of an unrealistic aim. Like these are emotions that are a part of, I would say, I mean, you ask any human being, you stop any human being down the street and you ask them if they have any guilts or regrets or like something that makes them feel embarrassed or shameful in their life. Of course they will have it. They will have at least one or two things that they will say that, yeah, this is something I'm not like really proud of, and something that I sometimes think about and I think I could have done better, or like I could have done things differently. So like with like when I was working on like, because I had like a list of real events that I was going through over in my head over and over again, and they would especially hit me in the middle of the night, and then I would just be up like rolling around in bed thinking about those like unpleasant, really bad memories and the things that I had done, and just like feeling so like icky about it. And chronic guilt and shame feels like there's something inside you that's eating you from the inside, like something is like nibbling away on your insides, and that's just just the most uncomfortable feeling in that moment. So I was going through my real events that this happened and this happened and this happened. Oh my god, like there's so much like bad stuff that I have done, so much to be embarrassed about, so much to be like guilty and shameful of. And essentially like what I was either trying to do was wanting to completely shout out all my guilt and shame, all my like worst like guilt and shame, or trying to completely eradicate it. But then again, that is where I was going wrong, because that was either 0 or 100. um when working on unconditional acceptance of myself, I think, and understanding that there's no such thing as a good or bad person, having a more, like I said, like a more complex understanding about myself as a human being, but also a more compassionate one as well. What happened was that there were some things where when I think about them now, I naturally and very organically, like I don't feel guilty and shameful about them. I understand that it's a complicated and a very gray thing, so it's not something that makes me feel good or bad. I don't necessarily feel much about it, other than the fact that it is those are some instances that definitely have taught me some of the biggest lessons in life. But then there are some things, some of those real events about which I do still feel a little embarrassed and like shameful and regretful about. Like I do wish that things could have happened differently, but also I mean, but I'm also not aiming to completely eliminate like any guilt, shame, or regret, because I mean, again, those are kind of part of life as well. So sometimes when working with people as well, what happens is that the impression that they have is that as long as they're feeling even like a slight twinge of guilt and shame, they're like, I think there's something has to be done. Like I have to maybe work even harder or like push even harder to like, just like get rid of even this like tiny flicker of guilt and shame. That's a classic fear thing, first of all. And secondly, your perspective about guilt and shame itself also needs to change, because again, to reiterate, the idea is not to get rid of any ounce of it from your life. The idea is to bring it down from those catastrophic levels of constantly beating yourself up and feeling like the worst person and staying up at night and just like feeling like I don't deserve good things, or I can't do this, I can't do that kind of thing, right? So that cynical negative like spiral that you and whirlpool that you basically get sucked into, right? So as a result of working on things, some things are naturally going to stop making you feel like any guilt or regret. But then there's some things that where it might linger a little bit, but it's then not like 24/7 everyday thing. I have guilts and regrets and like embarrassing things in my past still, of course. And when I think about them, I mean, I don't feel proud or great about them at all. But also at the same time, it doesn't feel like there's a mountain sitting on my head and on my chest either. And I accept the fact that these uncomfortable feelings are a part of my life, right? So I just wanted to quickly go through these three important points because I think these are important. Like these are essential to highlight. People often forget and kind of like lose sight of these things. Again, the Ellis books are really important for those, and also there's a three-part video on YouTube on Albert Ellis talking about guilt and shame. They're not very long parts. I think each part is like on an average like 10 minutes or 8 minutes, something like that. So watch those three parts, Albert Ellis on guilt and shame, and there's a longer lecture that he did on the dire need for love. I think that's the title. So if you type in Albert Ellis, the dire need for love, you'll find that lecture on YouTube as well. So watch those. I think those are going to be good, helpful watches. Again, if you're interested in our coaching services, you have the WhatsApp link down below that will take you directly to the WhatsApp chat. You can also email phil@ocdrecovery.com and we can get you started on your recovery journey if you still haven't. So, yeah, probably one of my shortest videos, but I hope you enjoyed this and found this helpful. Bye.